Following segment is sponsored by Gilman and Bedigian.
Developing news, Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates telling City Council last week that his office made a lot of progress in the past year when it comes to holding criminals accountable, but admits juvenile crime and quality of life continues to be an area where they struggle. This morning, we have attorney Charles Gilman with Gilman and Bedigian joining us live to weigh in on Bates's citation docket. Charles, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Morning, Megan. Thanks for having me.
Of course, you know, the purpose of this docket is really to address those quality of life crimes there, those offenses. How difficult, from a legal perspective, are they to prosecute?
Look, I don't think they're difficult to prosecute in a theoretical sense. I think in a practical sense, they're very difficult to prosecute because there's so many of them, and just the volume of them alone would overwhelm the court system. That's why I think it's nice to have this citation system and a citation docket, as they're calling it, because it's almost more like a speeding ticket. And you can debate whether the punishment and the crime match. But with community service as one of the potential outcomes for the first two offenses, it shouldn't deter people from committing these quality of life crimes.
Who do you think this is going after?
I don't think it's going to go after the hardened criminals, obviously, because they're not going to worry about community service. Right. I think it's going to go after the young, rowdy teenager type who are debating whether or not they should do something silly, what we define as silly, or whether they should control themselves a little bit more, perhaps in Fell's Point, with the example of the other night. Are we going to start a fight, or are we just going to keep walking? Do we want a citation? Do we want to go home and tell our parents? Do we want to show up to court to get community service? That type of thing. I think it'll deter some of that.
Yeah, I think we look at the policing part of it as well. Do you think that is a crucial part in making sure that the citations get written?
Yes, I think the police officers have to learn how to do it correctly, because it's still, you're charging somebody with a crime. They have a constitutional right. You still have to do it properly. So there's a learning curve there. And one of the things that the current state's attorney is arguing is that under the previous regime, there wasn't a prosecution or any way of dealing with these low-level crimes. So the officers aren't really out there looking for them either. So you've got to retrain them to look for the crimes too.
Just legally, too, what else needs to happen to make sure that these violent offenders are held accountable as well? Because you mentioned that this citation docket really doesn't go after them.
Well, I think the citation docket will help in that the police officers will be able to deal with the low-level crimes faster. So hopefully they'll have more time to deal with the hard, tougher crimes like the gun violence and that stuff that really scares people. So hopefully, and this will, maybe the circuit court will be less busy, and maybe the actual people who get charged with the hardened crimes, because the officers will have more time, they'll have a cleaner case when it finally does get prosecuted.
Interesting perspective. I know you understand certainly what that court system is like. Charles, thank you for weighing in. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Megan. Have a great day.
You too.